So what we want to do now is animate the background water plants in the fish scene. At the moment, we have a guide layer showing us what the plants should look like. However, this is a static layer and we want to bring these plants a little bit to life. We will create a pre-comp of this layer that we will duplicate and spread across the background. First, we'll create the comp out of plants01 top, which is this one representation of all of these plants in the background. We'll hit Command, Control, Shift, C, and we'll name this layer 030A because it's part of the scene 030 right. Call it right plants top. We want to leave all attributes in this comp. By ticking this, our comp is automatically cropped to the size of our layer and the start of the comp is also trimmed within the parent comp. This feature is very restricted and doesn't work in all cases, but in our case, it's great. For example, you can only use it for pre-comping one layer or layers that don't have the continuous rasterization ticked on. You can also not use it for layers that have been converted to shapes. But like I said, in our case, it's perfect, so we'll do that. Now, as you can see, this is our comp now. We'll add a start marker immediately. We'll move in, we'll crop the layer. We'll add a start marker again here as well. We'll change the layer color before and also the comp layer color. And we can also do that in the project window. So now all of them look the same, which is great. Now we want to create shapes from this vector layer. We can remove the original layer. We don't need that one anymore. We'll toggle open the contents and also the groups, and we'll delete this merge path. We'll set keyframes to the path. We'll move forward 100 frames. We'll set an end marker, and we'll animate this down a little bit. So we kind of want this plan to sway from left to right. So kind of from here, a little bit from left to right. We don't want this animation to be too extreme. Right, so we'll move to our end marker. We'll go back to our parent comp and we'll add an end marker to this comp as well. The reason for that is because we want to add a time remap and we want to add keyframes to both of the markers that we have set here. We'll remove the beginning keyframe and the end keyframe. We will add a ping pong expression and see how this animates. So we definitely want to add some ease to these keyframes. And now we want to duplicate this comp and position it approximately in the same positions as our reference layer over here. So as you can see, I've set this layer to be a guide layer because we don't actually want this layer to render. It's just for us so we can position this plant composition. I've done this beforehand, before we started animating. So you probably want to do the same in case you have not done this yet. Now we'll turn off our ground layer for now so we can see a little bit more, and we'll start duplicating this comp. We can also right-click, transform, and flip horizontally. And then we can rotate this by hitting W on the keyboard and just repositioning this layer. Doesn't have to be 100% accurate. We just want it to be just approximately in the same position. Now what we want to do is shift all of these comps back 5 frames each, so we have a little bit of dynamic displacement. Of course, if you already have a plugin or a script to do that, please go ahead and use that. It's very handy, but for those of you who don't have that, you can just do this manually. So you want all of your comps to move back rather than forward, otherwise you'd have a very unpleasant popping of the comps. Now, the reason why we have pre-comped this plant is that we only need to animate it once, and if we decide the movement is not quite right, we wouldn't have to adjust the animation of 10 plus plants. We could just adjust one animation in one comp, and then it would reflect this change for all of the other plants in this scene. Now we can hide the guide layer, because we don't need that one anymore. And maybe want to adjust this plant animation just a little bit more. It's a little bit stiff. So what we can do, we can adjust the Bezier handles a little bit, not too much. We don't want the background to be animated too crazy. The reason for that is we want the focus of the animation to be in the foreground. We don't want the background to be too crazy and distracting. So for this reason, we'll bring back all of the other layers and we'll just see what it looks like. If it's too much, if we need to tone it back a little bit, we'll just adjust. So I still feel like the background is a little bit too much. So let's just bring that down a little bit. Let's bring this back. You can skip between the beginning and the end of your work area by hitting Shift and Home and End on your extended keyboard. Let's have a look at that. That looks appropriate. Now, if you feel that the motion is also too fast and you want to stretch it across more keyframes, you can adjust time remapping keyframes. So at the moment, we have them set across 100 frames. If you wanted to, you could stretch this keyframe and the animation would play slower, as you can see on this little guy over here. But for me, this animation looks great, so let's leave it the way it is.